Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Marcy Utakis with Ryder Levitt Bucknall, and I serve as the chair of the AED Membership Committee. And with me today is my co-chair, Lisa Folsom from Sunland Asphalt. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
And also with us is Carrie Kelly, Executive Director of AED. And we also have Melissa and Juliana on to help facilitate the meeting today. Good morning, ladies. So welcome everyone to this installment of AED's Member InFocus bi-monthly virtual series, where we conduct fun and informative interviews with Arizona's leading practitioners in the field of economic development. So Lisa, can you tell us about the format for today's meeting?
Yes. So for today's InFocus meeting, we have enabled, hold on, for some reason my script disappeared. We have enabled your video so that we can all connect. But to ensure the quality of our audio, we ask that all attendees place themselves on mute. If time permits, at the end, we will take additional questions posted to the chat box. We'll be keeping to our 30-minute time frame to get you all out on time today. Now we are going to pause for a minute and take a photo. So if everybody could, that is on video, face forward and give us your best smile.
I'll give it like a 5-second buffer so they can turn their cameras on. Brian, Sean.
Oh.
That's if they're going to.
That's right, you know.
Okay. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. We did it.
Thank you. Thanks for thinking of that, Melissa. So continuing on, Lisa and I will be your hosts today. And now it's my privilege to introduce one of Arizona's foremost economic developers, Denise McClafferty from MAG. Good morning, Denise, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to see you.
Good morning. Okay, so to start, Denise, first, can you tell us what MAG is?
Yeah, of course. Well, again, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me here. MAG is it's a regional planning agency. Technically, it's a council of governments and a metropolitan planning organization. As an agency, MAG's dedicated to making the lives of people that live in the region better. And we do that by working with our member agencies on problems and issues that require regional collaboration and solutions. So it took me a really long time to wrap my head around what a regional planning agency does. I've been working with MAG for over 20 years. My family still kind of doesn't know what I do. They think I work for the state. They think I work for the county. But yeah, in terms of planning agencies, MAG's the second largest planning agency in the country. So our member agencies include 27 cities and towns. We have 3 Native nations, 2 counties, Maricopa and Pinal, and then we have ADOT, and we serve about 4.7 million people. Our populations actually represents 67% of Arizona's population, and our sales tax represents about 70% of all the sales tax collected in Arizona. So it does have, MAG does have an impact statewide, and our work, it often extends to the entire state. But of course, MAG's core function is transportation planning. So we plan the freeways, the arterials, we call it active transportation. So it's the bike and ped routes for the region. So we work with our member agencies to plan the transportation as a system. So it's all connecting and it works efficiently. I don't pretend to be an expert in transportation planning, but I know there's a lot involved in it. They have to look at the funding. More so today, we have to look at emerging technology, data, lots of data, and then the different needs of each of our communities, that's just to name a few. So we're currently working through a process for our next regional transportation plan that includes planning and funding for transportation projects in the region for the future. So that would be 2026 to 2050. So the MAG Transportation Policy Committee went through an intense scenario planning process and a $36 billion implementation plan that was approved by our MAG Regional Council. So the next step is enabling legislation in order to go to the voters in 2022 with a proposed extension of the half-cent sales tax for 25 years. So MAG also has other functions, of course, including air quality. Air quality is closely linked to transportation. So we do air quality conformity for the projects that are in the regional transportation plan. And if it doesn't pass conformity, then those projects aren't built. So they're closely linked. We also have a human services division. We do homelessness and domestic violence planning, of course, economic development, which is the area I work in. And then we have a regional analytics division that that does the data collection and analysis. So we have a lot of data at MAG as well. And just one more thing I wanted to mention about MAG, we have a committee process. It's kind of gets in the weeds a little bit, but we have a committee process. And I think that's what works the best at MAG. It starts with our technical committees, and those that sit on those committees are like experts in their fields, like the Building Codes Committee. And then if you have an idea or an issue, it goes through the technical committee, and then through our management committee, which are our city managers. And then if it's a transportation related item, it goes to the transportation policy committee, and then ultimately to our governing board, which is our regional council, the mayors. And I think one aspect that makes this whole process run smoothly, at least most of the time, is working with the intergovernmental representatives within the cities and towns. These staff assist MAG in identifying any problems or issues that it's addressed before it gets to the policy committee. So we kind of work it out before we get to those policy committees. So that's MAG in a nutshell. There's a lot going on, and it's a pretty complex, I think, organization. And that was a pretty quick summary of what MAG is.
Thank you.
So Denise, what is your current position and role with MAG?
So I am the Senior Policy Program Manager. I work in the Policy and Government Relations team. I've been at MAG since 1997. I have several roles, but the ones that take up most of my time are I staff the MAG Economic Development Committee, or we call it the EDC. And I also assist MAG divisions with policy and government relations issues. So a little bit of background, the EDC, it meets bi-monthly, and it focuses on economic development from a policy perspective. So it's really not traditional ED role, but we look at it from kind of a higher level. We share best practices and provide a forum for regional collaboration. And then as part of the policy and government relations team, I assist with policies and government relations issues across the divisions at MAG. So for example, I work with 911, we do maybe a data sharing agreement, or helping to develop the MAG policy principles. So I like to say I know just a little bit about many things at MAG, but enough sometimes to be dangerous.
Understood. Well, now we'll be asking you some questions about you to help us all get to know you a little bit better. Lisa, go ahead, start with the first question, please.
All right. Are you an Arizona native? If not, how did you land here?
I am not an Arizona native. Like I said, I started working for MAG in 97, and that's actually when I moved here. So it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but when I was in my early 30s, I always wanted to live somewhere warm. So started looking for a job, and we chose Arizona. And so I started looking for a job, and there was a job ad for MAG working with elected officials. At the time, I worked for the city of Pittsburgh, and I was there for 11 years. And I actually worked in the mayor's office for a while. And I thought, wow, what a great fit. MAG works with elected officials. I've been working with elected officials. So my husband and I jumped in a Ryder truck with all our belongings, our dog, and we drove 2,000 miles to Phoenix. And it was actually a huge risk because we had a house that wasn't sold. We had a camp that wasn't sold yet either. Like I said, big risk, but it paid off. It was the best move that we ever made.
That's awesome. I just got back from Pittsburgh. It's a great place to visit.
And you're from there as well, right?
I was born in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Okay.
I know exactly
it is a great place.
I know exactly what you mean when you say camp. You had a camp.
Luckily
Luckily,
we were able to sell those, and within like a couple months after we moved. But it was a scary thing. It was a risk.
You pick up and put everything in a truck and move across country for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I'm
I
glad that you did.
the MAG executive director at the time didn't believe that I was going to show up on my first day.
You showed him.
That's right.
All right. So tell us if you have a pet, what is he or she like?
I hear one barking in the background. I do. I do have a pet. I have a German Shepherd. Her name's Sadie. She's 3 years old. Let's see. She's fun. She loves to walk. She loves to hike, and she's either like always on or sleeping. She likes to go for car rides. We actually did several RV trips with her, so she likes to go on trips. Sometimes I think she's a product of the pandemic, meaning that she has a bit of separation anxiety. It's not terrible.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry for the delay, but here's it.
Okay, I think we got that.
that's okay.
Go
That's
ahead,
okay.
Denise, sorry.
I think she has a bit of separation anxiety because, she wasn't socialized and, you're home so often through this pandemic. And Sadie's actually our third German Shepherd. We love the breed. They're super smart. They're super loyal. They're protective. I've had both purebreds and one. We got one from the shelter one time. But if they have German Shepherd in them, they have those traits: the smart, the loyalty, and the protection.
Where did you get Sadie? Is she from the shelter or did you get her as a pup?
We got her as a pup and off of a breeder up in Desert Hills. So yeah, she was. We were tempted to take. There were 2 females left. We were tempted to take them both, but we already had another German Shepherd, an older one at home. And I tell you what, 2 dogs is a lot.
I was gonna say, I have 3 of them and mine is the one that you hear barking because the little guy's here, so. So I was like, I'm gonna put it on mute and this ventriloquist, shut it. Oh man. All right. So tell us something interesting about yourself and that most of us don't know.
Let's see. I don't know if it's interesting, but it's definitely a passion of mine. I love to hike. I really didn't get into hiking until I moved to Arizona. Got connected with some folks. Actually, they worked at MAG at the time, and we put a group together and did the rim to rim at the Grand Canyon. I've done Humphreys Peak, Havasupai Falls, part of the Appalachian Trail, which is called the Rachel Carson Trail. And I tell you what, the trails in Pennsylvania, in some ways, are a lot harder because they don't have switchbacks. They go straight up. But I do believe that Arizona has some of the best hiking around. I mean, it has so many different sceneries up in Flagstaff in the desert. So, yeah.
And just to throw this in, Denise, where are you located? Where do you live? What part of the-
Yeah, I'm currently in the Phoenix area, 15th Street and Thunderbird.
Okay, you're in the Phoenix area. I wasn't
But
sure.
I lived up in Desert Hills for 8 or 10 years. We just sort of recently, before the pandemic, moved. But yeah, that area had a ton of hiking, which is awesome, up in the desert off of Carefree Highway. So we did a lot of those trails there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we knew the same trails, or if you're from a different part of the state, that you would be experiencing different trails. All right, so now we've reached the part of the interview where we get to learn a little bit more about your work. So let's start with a few questions about your career.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your current role and focus in economic development with MAG?
Sure. It's definitely, like I said earlier, it's not a traditional ED role. I focus more on collaboration and partnerships and best practices in ED. I mentioned earlier the MAG Economic Development Committee. I coordinate those meetings, and speakers. And again, a bit of background about the EDC. The actual committee consists of elected officials and business leaders from around the region. The business members include EDOs in the region, and we also have representatives from educational institutions like ASU, and then we have transportation representatives. So it's a pretty diverse committee. Some of the topics of discussion and collaboration include, like, we have economic updates periodically. We talk about housing and real estate. We pull in a lot of the MAG data and have reports on that. We talk about the transportation and infrastructure, more recently, AI and the EV sectors. We also work very closely with Canada and Mexico. This is kind of a different twist and a fun part of what we do at the EDC. We work with Canada and Mexico and build relationships with the elected officials there, as well as we try to promote the trade between our two biggest trading partners. Before the pandemic, we were planning a lot of trips to Mexico and Canada, but of course that kind of came to a screeching halt. But as you can see, it's not a traditional ED role, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the diversity of it.
So what inspired you to pursue the career you have today? Besides looking for a warm place to live?
I sort of fell into everything. I'm kind of the type of person that goes with the flow, it's like, okay. So I fell into it, meaning working for government, period. I worked for the city of Pittsburgh when I was in my early 20s. So I've always worked for government, local government in Pittsburgh, and then regional government here. I like to work on projects that make a difference and positions that make a difference. And I believe government does that. And when I was looking for to go for my graduate degree, I was looking at an MPA and an MBA, and I couldn't decide. So I started looking really closely at the differences between them. And there really wasn't a big difference, besides the fact that one focused more on public and one focused more on private, and kind of the aspects of working in those industries. But since I was in government for so long already, I decided on the MPA. And as far as my ED career, that started in 2010 during the Great Recession, when the elected officials at MAG, they wanted to take a closer look at ED and how the region could diversify its economy, because we were so reliant on the housing at the time. And that's when the EDC was formed. But once I got involved in ED and started meeting and talking to some of the experts that are out there in the field, it was fascinating to me, and how much people who worked in the ED field believed in either their city, their town, or their region. There's a lot of passion there. And in my opinion, this region has come a long way since the recession, and those in economic development have worked really hard to do that. So kudos to you all.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the best advice you can give to someone who just started an economic development career?
Well, I can actually remember when I just started. It seems like yesterday, back in 2010, just kind of learning about ED. I listened a lot. I read, learned, get involved, network. I actually had to learn from scratch about the ED world. And like I said, it's very interesting to me. Joining AAED really helped. It was a tremendous help. Members are very helpful. I can remember my first spring conference when a particular AAED member took me kind of under her wing, and she introduced me to everybody she knew at the conference. And that was probably everybody. And I'm very grateful for that. The best advice, I guess I would say, is to find a mentor and network.
Yeah, that is good advice. And I understand we have that program going with us now here in AED. So hopefully other people can take advantage of that. So next question would be, Denise, can you tell us about a cool industry, business, or event within your organization that we may not know about?
Yeah, sure. And if you guys haven't noticed already by now, it's a little bit different, and which is different than the city's ED kind of role. But I touched on this a little bit earlier. Pre-COVID, we really enjoyed organizing the ED missions through the EDC. And that was again to Canada and Mexico. We visited, in Canada, we visited Montreal, we visited Calgary, and in Mexico, Nogales, Hermosillo, and Mexico City. So I think they're pretty cool events. We arranged meetings when we went there with elected officials. We visited universities to talk about workforce. We met with different businesses in the particular sectors that are synergistic to stimulate some attraction. So I really enjoyed these trips because you get to meet people, interesting people, and learn about what they're doing in the ED environment, even in a different country, and you learn. When we work on trips, we collaborate a lot with our other partners, of course. We collaborate with GPEC, ACA, AOT, the Canada-Arizona Business Council, Arizona Mexico Commission, and that's just to name a few, depending on where we're going and what we're doing. There are a lot of work, these kind of trips, but it's worth it when you hear a participant get something out of it. And again, just learning and having fun.
Perfect. Is there a special project or program within MAG that really stands out to you?
Well, let's see. A little different at MAG. I guess it would have to be the Economic Development Committee that I staff. That's a program under MAG. It's what got me interested in the ED field, and it provided me the opportunity to meet interesting and smart people that work in the ED around the state. I learned a lot from coordinating the meetings and the speakers for the EDC and on the ED trips. Learning what's important from our elected officials helps to shape and change the direction of the Economic Development Committee, and that's always changing based on what's changing out there in the world. So staying on top of what's important in the region and what's driving economic growth, and that's what's special and kind of stands out to me.
All right, awesome. So now we're going to find out how you like to do business.
So for those interested in knowing more about MAG, how would we get started?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, well, first of all, connect with me. If I can't help you, I can guide you to the right person at MAG. MAG has a lot of meetings, from the technical committee meetings to the policy committee meetings, and they're all open to the public and they're recorded, and you can listen to them at your convenience on YouTube. But getting to know MAG, even going to the website, we have a lot of information on the website, but if you need help navigating through that information, again, you can connect with me. There are many ways to get to know MAG a little bit better, and I'm definitely here to help.
Perfect. Thank you.
So if we want to connect with you or meet with you, how would we go about setting that up?
Well, lunch, coffee, I'm open to anything. I mean, we as an organization are still pretty much virtual till January. So if somebody still wants to remain virtual by phone or Zoom or Teams, it is great. Otherwise, like I said, lunch, coffee, and connecting to me by my email. It's dmcclafferty@azmag.gov. So yeah, happy to talk to anybody.
Perfect. Now tell us a little bit about AAD. What are your top 2 favorite AAD events and why?
That's a hard one. I think I like the spring and the fall conferences the most. I get to learn. You kind of have 2 parts. You learn more. You learn a lot from the sessions, and then you also get to network and talk to fellow ED professionals. They're bigger events, so you get a bit of learning from, like I said, the sessions, and then you get the smaller groups and meetings like this and talking like this with others one-on-one. So I think the spring conference and fall forum are the best, but I don't want to disregard the smaller ones. Like the morning member blend event is also nice because you have the smaller groups, and it allows you a little bit more time to chat one-on-one. So yeah, like I said, it's hard to pick because they all have their own specialties.
Agreed. So well, looks like we're doing pretty good on time. I would love to open up for questions. If you want to type anything in the chat box, that's fine, but you can unmute as well and ask any specific questions you have of Denise or about MAG. I think I'd love to go and start off here by just asking, with the passing of the infrastructure bill, what role does MAG play in that? Not the passing of the bill, but what we're going to do with the money here in Arizona.
Yeah, well, you started off with a hard one. That's definitely not my specialty, but again, it's in the transportation, but it definitely affects how you know, the funding that we get for transportation funding. You know, all the projects that I talked about and the revenue that we're getting for the next half-cent sales tax comes from well, we put all the funding together. I guess I should say that we have the sales tax, we have the Highway User Revenue Fund. We get the federal funding from, we have formulas for federal funding that we get from FHWA and FTA, and then also ADOT's FHWA money as well. So, and again, if somebody wants a more specific and direct answer, I can definitely point them to the experts in the transportation and funding field. I think we had somebody, Audra Kester Thomas spoke at an AAD government relations committee. So if anybody's interested in having somebody from MAG come and talk at the committee about a specific thing, we're definitely open to that.
Does the website also indicate who's on these committees?
Yes, yes. It has both the committee members and the staff member contact for that particular committee. So you get to the person who actually deals directly with the committees.
Who else has questions for Denise?
Hey, Heath.
I'm looking for the chat here to see.
Hey, Denise.
Heath had his hand up too.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Go ahead, Heath.
I was just wondering, so there are a lot of, metropolitan planning organizations across the state, CAG, MAG, and PAG. How or do you guys collaborate or coordinate with them on anything statewide, if you will? Because I know that you represent, a core amount of cities and towns, just like PAG does and just like CAG does. So what does the collaboration look like among or between you guys, if any?
We absolutely do collaborate, yes. We have a Arizona COG and MPO directors meeting that we meet frequently. I want to say it's like quarterly. So we collaborate, and a lot of times it's discussion and sharing of information and things like that. We also actually go one step further and collaborate with the Intermountain West MPOs because there's a lot of things in Intermountain West that are synergistic between the MPOs. And we also have a more targeted focus with the Sun Corridor. So that's like MAG, CAG, and PAG on specific issues, especially with transportation, with the connection with I-10. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have a question for Denise?
Hey Denise, I'm curious, like every time I hear somebody talk about economic development, I have this too, where my friends are like, but what is it that you do? And but no, what is it that you do? Like, I'm curious if you could just like sum up like in a sentence what it is that you do. And I'm curious if you could actually do that in a sentence.
Thanks, Carrie.
Like if one was to say, Denise, what is it that you do?
I know. Well, I tell you what, there are a few words that not only economic development, but actually a lot of things that we do at MAG. It's kind of a forum for bringing people together, a collaboration, a partnership to discuss, and then that leads to projects. Specifically, if you're talking about economic development, our trips and our focus on Mexico and Canada came out of those collaborations and those discussions. And yeah, I struggle with that sometimes because it is so different than like a city ED professional who works on specifically business attraction. But yes, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that's great. Collaboration. I love it.
I think so. Anybody else have any questions? We're coming to the end of our time here. So if I don't see any other questions, then we'll go ahead and just wrap up. Thank you so much, Denise, for being our guest today. It was very interesting, and I'm glad I understand what MAG does now. We enjoyed spending our time with you, and also fun getting to know you a little bit better. So for all of those of you that are on right now, we will be doing this again in January, and we'll advertise that over the next couple of months.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great to see everybody.